It's the M&M Funky Five Jive with Mike and Mel, the short and sweet podcast where they dive into toys, kids, and all the chaos in between. Packed with tips, stories, and unsolicited opinions because, let's face it, they've got plenty. And hey, their opinions are their own, so save your whining for someone who cares. Now let's get to it. Time to play with Mike and Mel.
Hey there, I'm Mel.
And Mike.
And we are M&M Funky Stuff. And we're back with our second episode of our podcast. And today, our topic is traveling with kids. And of course, with this being the holiday season, there's going to be a lot of traveling going on. And so what we put together in the blog this week has to do with keeping your sanity while trying to get from point A to point B.
Oh, man, I could go all the way back to when I was a kid. We had an old 1960s Buick, and we would travel all the way from Indiana to Florida. No seatbelts. I would lay on the floor of the car, no air conditioning, with the windows down for 1,000 miles, with the wind going the whole way. All the way to, with my kids, when it started a time when I finally got a car and it had a DVD player.
Oh, that's
that
fancy.
Would drop down. And, you know, we talk about the kids on their screens on their phone all the time, but that was the most beautiful thing that ever happened to me. And it came with headphones. So I had these little tiny kids with these gigantic headphones on their heads going like this. And I'd be putting in whatever DVDs next. And it was the way to go. But we did all the traditional stuff. We played, especially as kids got older, you know, you play all the games and the travel games, like, you know, like what?
Right. Like I Spy and all of that. And that actually is covered in the article too. We had the I Spy and then the state license plates, and I was fascinated.
I always liked the license plates.
I did too. I was fascinated by it.
We actually got an Alaska one, and one time I remember Hawaii. I don't know how they even got.
I don't know. I never found all 50 because I would get bored or fall asleep before.
Yeah. Well, that's the problem. Everybody gets bored.
Right.
But, you know, the article talks about snacks and all this stuff. I remember one time I took, it was just me traveling from North Carolina to Indiana to the grandparents' house when I lived down there. And I had two kids, a toddler and maybe, I don't know what she was, maybe third grade.
Uh-huh.
And unfortunately, I left all the snacks in the back. It's kind of like leaving the dog food open with the dogs.
Right.
And my son ate all the gummy worms without me knowing, and then started throwing up, and I had Technicolor gummy worm explosion in the back seat. And I was on the side of the road in Kentucky. Oh, it's awful.
Oh my gosh.
It was awful. And there was worse stories, but we don't have to talk about that.
Right. Traveling back in the 70s, like you did, 70s and the 80s, when first it was me, and then me and my sister, younger. We're like 8 years apart almost. And there was no, like, for example, really survival kit, if you will. No snacks or anything. I think we got our pillow, our favorite stuffed animal, you know, some books, some coloring books, maybe like the highlights activity books or whatever. And that was about it. That was our survival kit. Back seat, no seatbelt, just bouncing around back there. And then when my sister was little, she actually sat on my mom's lap in the front seat, like when she was a toddler.
Right.
So yeah,
my mom back in the 60s when I was little, my mom had this car seat that today looks like something out of, you know, like a electroshock treatment. Terrible piece of metal with some wood on it, and just crazy. Because the other experiences I had was not in the car, but in the airports and traveling with because we lived in California, and so fly the kids back to Indiana once again, and you'd be traveling with two kids. I'd have one kid strapped to the front, one kid on my shoulders, two car seats, backpacks and
Right.
just it's a hassle. It's
is.
hard. It's hard to travel with kids.
It is.
Okay, now we haven't done this, but I'm going to plug our game because I think that this is a good way to get it in here. Because, all right, now our kids are grown up. They're going to be having kids of their own before too long, probably.
Right.
And we'll see how this plays out. But I was thinking about it through this article, and I was thinking, on the road especially, I know the kids, like when our kids were teenagers and the phones were starting to come around, and that's all they do all the time, and it kind of drives you crazy, but you don't blame them because it's boring in the car.
Right.
But I think that, like with our game, you stop for rest stops or, stretch your legs, go to the bathroom, all that stuff. That would be a good time to get out the chicka-chaka and, play a game, get the kids moving, because, I would send my kids, we get to rest stop when they were little, and I'd have like these fake obstacle courses, like run to that picnic bench, run around it 3 times and come back, just to get the kids moving. And it's the same. We did that. I did that a lot. I was kind of a Mr. Mom. I worked from home a lot, and I would do a lot of that kind of activity with my kids, especially the obstacle course things, and we come up with these challenges, and it would wear them out. And it was fun. And so I think that with our game, we'd be able to do that. I'm sorry, what?
What comes to mind is when you go to historical places. So, like for example, you and I love to stop at historical places. And, you can imagine like a 3-year-old, 4-year-old would be like, oh, this is boring. What can I do? And so you've got usually all that open green space.
Right.
You take out the chicka-chaka, the kids that don't want to explore the historic site, they all play together, get worn out, get back in the car and fall asleep, we hope.
Yeah. And I think that's a great idea. Yeah. So, get those kids moving around them, get them playing.
My kids didn't have phones until later in life. They did not have phones in middle school or
anything.
Kids,
when they did have them.
When they were that age and I traveled with them long distance, we would have conversations. We'd say, oh, look at this, and we'd point things out around us, and we would try to involve them in the conversations as much as we could and just created moments. And we even went out, remember, and bought that book, that trivia book, or was it 1,000 Trivia Games or something like that?
Something like that.
Yeah. And we tried that for a little bit. And even if it lasts only 15 minutes, that's
it's
15 minutes.
It's still part of the experience.
Still part of the experience. So, see, and I remember that, and that was 11 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah. See, so that was only a minor thing there. So between, there was something interesting that I found, road trip bingo. So you make the bingo cards before you actually leave. I've never tried this before, so this was something that I happened to see.
So what do you do?
So you make the cards, and you just, instead of the numbers or whatever for bingo, you would make objects. So maybe a stop sign or a yield sign or, a truck.
Kind of like an I Spy.
Like an I Spy, but you have a bingo card, and then when you get your 5 in a row or however many squares.
Wait a minute. Why don't we make this and sell it? That's a good idea.
That's a really good idea.
Yeah,
so
that'd be fun. I mean, as long as the kids are enjoying it.
Yeah. And that's something that, whether you're going 100 miles or 1,000 miles, that could be just like an ongoing game. I mean, nobody has to win. So that's a lot of fun. Now, you're going to have to tell me if you had this. When we were going to my grandmother's house, and we would go like once a month, once every 2 months, there was always a favorite stop that we had. And it was the 7-Eleven in Charlottesville, Virginia.
Oh, yeah, we had stops.
We had the Charlottesville, Virginia 7-Eleven stop, and it was my favorite because I could get a Coke-flavored Slurpee and some barbecue potato chips, Utz brand, of course. What was your favorite stop?
Oh my God.
Okay,
so we went to Michigan for vacation every year. And my family was so cheap or poor or whatever we were that we would get one bottle, when it was in a 16-ounce glass bottle of Pepsi or Coke.
Right.
And the 3 kids would have to split that.
Yeah.
I don't remember. We probably got something kind of treat or candy or something. but I was allowed one comic book
Oh, nice. Well,
a
that's good.
vacation.
Mm-hmm.
But that was also one comic book a year. And then I ended up working for Marvel Comics later. So I only owned like 4 comic books in my life. But I made comic books. 400. I made thousands of comic books after that. But yeah, so like it wasn't a particular place, but that was the trip. But the restaurant, my family was big on the restaurant. The food still is.
Yeah. And
we would stop at Win Schuler's for the barshies. It was like this horseradish cheddar cheese spread on Melba toast. It was my favorite. And Frisch's Big Boy was the other restaurant. Yeah. Like, and those, I know my parents would know all the stuff I was talking about.
Right.
But like the sharing the Coke and stuff, my mom would say, "Oh, we wouldn't make you do that," but she did. I know she would say that. We would never do that.
I know you're.
You know she would.
I know she.
But it would be hilarious to hear like what my kids' remembrance or what their feelings are on what they remember.
Oh, one more thing I wanted to say too. Wrapping it up is that. You can always bring like little surprise bribery treats for your kids too. I mean, if they're of that age, like, reward them with stickers for being good kids. Reward them with little toy figurines. What do you reward them for good behavior, for not driving you nuts and not screaming in the car. I think that's perfectly fine.
Yeah? Bribing them?
Yeah.
I mean, we all bribe our kids.
Don't bribe them with food.
No, but we
bribe them with stickers and stuff.
Like treats. Like
plastic
rewards.
Treats. Yeah.
But shouldn't they just act good to begin with?
Well, they should, but some kids don't have that luxury of self-control.
So maybe not use it as a reward, but say later, "Hey, you guys were great on the trip. Because of that, we're going to do this thing."
Yeah, but I got were you good? Last thing, were you good about capturing memories?
What, like pictures
during travel? Like,
yes,
like not just when you got to the destination, but like, let's say Chloe stuck a couple of Cheetos up her nose and she's making a
it would be
little face.
It would be a lot. It would be a lot easier now because I was doing it with actual photographs. With a real camera,
right.
And printed photographs. Mm-hmm. We would have, like stopping at Rock City.
Yeah,
we'd take pictures, and I have I have photos like that. Mm-hmm. I was a big video guy. I took a lot of high 8, old fashioned video.
Right.
But I think now everything's easy to document. Mm-hmm. It's easier. It was harder to document back then. But you have better physical representation of your documentation.
I know. I used to take my film and put it in the envelope and drop it in the slot.
Yeah, what a weird concept.
Over at the pharmacy, or take it to the little hut.
It seems so foreign now.
It does.
It's as foreign as a payphone.
I kind of miss that though.
I do too. Maybe we should, when we get rich, we're gonna have a photo mat and a payphone in our record.
We are. We're bringing it back all the way to the 70s. Okay, so anyway, thanks a lot. Hope you had fun today on our podcast and vlog, however you're watching us. And give us a comment. Let us know what's your favorite family trip. Tell us some crazy stories of kids just doing outrageous things that drove you nuts or made you laugh till you peed your pants. We want to hear it all. So until next time.
Thanks for watching.
Thank you.
Check out Chicka Chaka. And we are almost done with our Amazon listing. So go there and check it out on Amazon. All right, everybody?
We'll see you soon.
Bye.
Bye.